Welcome to ReReview, where we watch movies from our past with a perspective from today. Your hosts are Matt, Bobby, and Austin, and we love the films from our youth, so we're taking a look back to see if they still hold up. On this episode, we're discussing Mars Attacks. It was released in 1996, directed by Tim Burton, stars Jack Nicholson, Pierce Brosnan, Sarah Jessica Parker, and a whole lot of names. This movie shows us how to prep for our eventual invasion by an alien species. Now, this is a fair warning. We're spoiling a 28-year-old movie, so if you haven't seen it, we will be revealing key plot points. I think one of you mentioned this as we were kind of talking through while watching it, that this came out the same time. Was it the same year as Independence Day?
It's really close.
Because definitely all of the Independence Day vibes with lower quality CG, even though I know everything was super cool at the same time, even though it hurt simultaneously. We should probably spend a good 5 minutes talking about the quality of the Earth that was presented. I think on our tiers of Earth qualities that we have seen throughout the various movies, it's still a step up over GoldenEye, which means it's a much better movie for that reason. Hello. But I think
what about Mars?
What about
is there a Mars scale now?
There might be a slight Mars scale because the way it was kind of just like a flat image. It reminded me of like basically Doom and Doom 2 from the early 90s. And I'm very fond of Doom, so I actually don't mind any of that. No, I think one of the trivia points that you mentioned, I think Bobby, you did, that this is supposed to be stop animation. And knowing this early on, and I think we always go back and compare things to Jurassic Park. I mean, we can get techie with it already. Bobby, how did you feel about all the CG and the way everything looks?
I was pretty impressed with it for the time that it was in. You know, I mean, obviously it's like a much larger scale than Jurassic Park. It's like brighter. There's a lot more stuff going on. But my understanding was one of the reasons they decided not to do stop motion was because they have those glass domes over their heads. And I think that they were going to have trouble with those in terms of like, they were going to have to wear like white gloves or something and like air spray them down all the time to make sure they didn't get dusty. And
that seems like it would be very difficult.
Yeah.
I do feel like that's where you could potentially because I'm always a fan of like combining things. So like it would have been interesting to see stop motion, but then leave the dome to be CG'd afterwards.
Right. Well, I did hear that at one point they were thinking about not putting any motion blur on the CG to kind of make it looks like stop motion, but they didn't go that route.
I'm a fan of motion blur. Well, I mean, one of the first things we see at the opening, it was like this bright light over the horizon. And I was like, oh man, that doesn't look great. Then the next thing you know, we have a herd of cows that are on fire coming right towards us. And I think it set the tone for what we needed to expect from the CG masterpiece. How did how did the graphics work for you, Matt?
It doesn't hold up, but I don't feel like that was the intention. Like, no. At least the way that it kind of came off to me, I feel like the look of the aliens, the look of the ships, I think those things were intentionally not supposed to be photorealistic because I don't know if I want to see the aliens photorealistic. I feel like the way that their designs were with the skulls and the brains and everything, like I don't know if I would have wanted that. Because I mean, if we're going to sit here and compare this and Independence Day, which isn't an unfair comparison because it was released the same year, alien invasion, destruction of monuments and stuff like that. So very comparable movies.
It's kind of weird how comparable it is.
A little bit. Like, what was this like? The Independence Day and the Armageddon and Deep Impact of its day, like
I was thinking the exact same thing. Volcano and LA or whatever the other ones were.
So you mean there's like a third one hanging out somewhere that we haven't seen yet?
Probably. Like with that one, I feel like you have to go photorealistic with it, and like that one obviously utilized CG and puppetry for its aliens.
And like Independence Day, like didn't have too much. It didn't have like ground combat like this movie has. Like there's hardly any like alien human fighting. It's mostly like spaceships and planes and stuff. So it's a lot different, like the type of combat.
True. They actually, I was thinking about that. Like, I don't remember in this movie if the spaceships had much for weaponry.
They had like the little prong that came down, right?
Oh, did they? Okay.
Yeah.
I feel like at least that happened.
Because I started thinking like things like War of the Worlds, where they had the little thing that was kind of more prominent sticking out of this the spaceship, so that or no, it was on the top, right? It was like an antenna that would shoot, if I remember correctly.
We also had like a mech alien suit.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I always support a mech.
I support mechs too. I don't think that one held up as much, like in comparison. I think the most egregious thing in the entire thing was probably the dove. That was probably the worst the CG got, I think.
But man, if you think about the scale of how much CG was in this movie, is quite a lot. Like all the main characters, and there was a lot of them. And then there was fluid because their heads were exploding. And then there was the spaceships, and I think there was a lot going on, like particle sims with the like skeleton stuff.
I'm so grateful that you followed up. There was a bunch of fluids with their heads exploding. If you would have, if you would have left it at plenty of fluids, I would have been kind of questioning things personally.
Well, before we get to full exploding heads, I think we could talk about, obviously throughout history, our idea of what an alien species would look like, and even our nearest neighbor Mars alien species would look like. How happy were you with the alien design, Matt?
I think that they did a good job with it in the context of this movie, because I think they intentionally wanted them to be unattractive. Because you think about most alien movies, smooth skin, usually gray. It's usually
like black eyes, but these ones had kind of like bulgy, huge human-looking eyes, kind of
like red and yellows, and
yeah.
I think they went for a version of aliens that no one could ever accuse of being cute. Because I think like Men in Black and stuff like that, where like even like the little squid alien, like, oh, it's cute, and then like it vomits in Will Smith's face or whatever. I think that it's good.
There's your third alien invasion movie right there.
Men in Black.
I will a little later.
I will say that it's unique enough that it stands on its own, that if somebody showed you a picture, you would know instantly what movie it was from.
That's very true.
Whereas I think like if you showed, oh man, I can't remember the name of the movie, like the Greys from the one where like the group of friends get abducted and like they're tortured and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Fire in the Sky,
Dark Skies or something.
Yeah. I think it's
Fire in the Sky.
Fire in the Sky. Yeah, like that one. Like they're kind of generic. Like you can start kind of blending and mixing and matching because everyone kind of has like that Greys idea. This one, it's very specific. They're green. They have a skull face, a big brain. Like they wear Speedos for some reason.
And one thing very specifically, and this is for Bobby. Tell me why you love how they speak, Bobby.
Now you do your translation that says like, I think it's fun.
Well, okay. I think the whole time I needed help with the translation. We come in peace, right? What were they really saying? Do we ever actually know, or were they just making all that up?
I think they were just making that up. It was probably the opposite of whatever that thing was saying. Like, we come to destroy you.
It's kind of like in Japanese, like when they speak, there's like the way that you end it, like literally you have the entire sentence in Japanese, and the very end of it, the way that they add or subtract a couple letters makes it positive or negative. Like they probably just didn't have that context for it. It's like we don't come in peace. We are not your friends.
Yeah, no, completely. That's got to be exactly it. One of the things, thinking back to the CG, and we have a lot of people interacting with these aliens, right? And I know, throwing back to Jurassic Park, thinking of where we see them interacting with the CG dinosaurs and their focus, I definitely was wondering the whole time, did they have the tennis balls in the right place, or did they even have tennis balls? Because it definitely seemed like they were working without any reference for where these CG creatures were going to be.
That's a really good question, because I was wondering that a lot of times during the movie. It was like, how on earth did they do this? Like, and you could tell that they did have, like body doubles for the CG. When they were dead, they seemed to have like dummies. It seems like they had a lot of reference, so they must have had like a full on set like creature that they could see, so like they can get a lighting reference. But I was wondering how they did some stuff, like some of the interaction, like it must have been like Roger Rabbit robotics kind of stuff. But like there was weird stuff how they were like carrying them into their spaceships. And then it just kind of seemed like it was like a still card of the actors just like floating up the spaceship, and they must have added like all the stuff afterwards.
I feel like for the most part throughout the movie, I don't know if it worked most of the time. Like the sight lines were generally there, but like it felt like they didn't exactly know where to react to stuff. But the best instance of interaction was Byron during the fight sequence towards the end.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that one, like to the point where like they had to have stand-ins. They had to have somebody physically there for him to be aiming for, because like it was just too spot on the interaction, the reaction to hitting. So like maybe it could have been somebody like with those standing speed bag things or whatever. Like maybe he was hitting one of those and somebody had it on a cart pushing it around.
Sure.
But yeah, I don't know. Especially considering the height, did they have just a bunch of kids running around set so they could keep track of them? Or
for 96, I didn't look at it. Is this a high budget film? And I ask this because it's going to lead me into.
Yeah, like one of the tricky things about it is like I think they have the tennis balls because it's pretty small, and like if for some reason like they need it to not, they need to see where the tennis ball is, it's not that hard to like erase over it, right? But if they have like a whole guy or something, they have to erase over a whole guy. I mean, like it could be done these days, but I don't know like how time consuming it was to do for all that kind of stuff.
Well, I know.
So this says budget was 70 million. They grossed 37 million. US and Canada.
Ooh,
oh, it hurts.
Oops.
Well, so was most of that money spent on this insane cast?
Yeah, I read it was supposed to be even bigger.
Because even though IMDb listed Jack Nicholson, Pierce Brosnan, and Sarah Jessica Parker as the top three, we've got a lot of people in this movie. I think I'll sort of listing everyone's names. Let me just ask you, like, Matt, who's your favorite non-Jack Nicholson, Pierce Brosnan, and Sarah Jessica Parker character?
That's tough because I mean, I want to say that like the one that stuck out the most to me was probably Natalie Portman in it as Taffy. Just because like she seemed to be the most realistic like person in the entire thing that just kind of saw everything for what it was. And this was very much at like the beginning of her career. Like this was probably post, what was the one where she was in Walmart? Crap.
Oh yeah, some pregnant.
She was pregnant and she was in a Walmart, and it was like right before the Phantom Menace. And I feel like Phantom Menace is where she really kind of took off in her career, because like now she's Natalie Portman, right? Like she is who she is. So like seeing her as like brand new to, major filmmaking or whatever, it was very interesting to see. And she just felt pretty natural in the entire thing.
Yeah. And she did like The Professional and stuff like that when she was younger.
Yeah. I do feel like I was sad that they didn't utilize Danny DeVito very well. I like Danny DeVito and a lot of the stuff that he does, especially like Always Sunny. So I'm sad that he wasn't used as well as I felt like he could have been. I kind of feel like you could have gotten rid of the second Jack Nicholson and replaced him with Danny DeVito instead.
Well, I was going to say, one of the things they did, and Bobby, you could say how you feel about this. We're talking about this whole cast of characters. We didn't get into the story yet, but boy, did they all get killed off quick.
Well, did they? I mean, some of them maybe not fast enough.
Oh, so you do have favorites and ones you hate. Okay.
Well, there was just a lot of them, and I feel like they spent a lot of time like doing characters, and then when most of them just got killed, I was just kind of like, oh, okay. There they go. They got killed. I wasn't like, oh, that one got killed. Oh, that got killed. In fact, like when the president was talking, and I do think he was a good president. Like he wasn't like I mean,
really?
I mean, good. Like I mean, like I thought that he did a pretty like. I mean, obviously there's a lot of bad choices and stuff, but I mean, in terms of like, I thought he did a pretty decent job at it. But in that whole scene where he was like doing the whole like big like trying to talk about like killing the whole big speech, like I was like, okay, they're for sure gonna kill him. Like they're just like trying to make it seem like they're not going to, but there was never really any doubt in my mind they weren't gonna kill him.
Is it that Jack needed to be killed twice, Bobby? Is that why he gets two characters?
Yeah, I do have a question for you guys. Why do you think he was two characters other than the fact that he said, hey, I could play both of these guys. Do you think they like set out to do that from the beginning, or is it like a thing where some actor dropped out? Or
if I'm getting into his head, I feel like he was just like, you know what? I don't just want to be a straightforward president. I want to be wacky. Write someone wacky in for me.
Or is he like, no, I'm above this kind of movie, and they're like, no, hang on. You could
Here's
be this
a
guy
paycheck. I was gonna
and
say,
this guy.
I don't know that the characters win so much. There's that $70 million right there. How much of it went to Jack?
Right, half of it.
I'm going to choose Tom Jones personally. That's
nice,
because he survives through it all.
But
who did you say
like, he sung the same song twice. It's like,
well, of course, that is like, the only song you expect like, Tom Jones to sing.
You don't have more songs, dude. Like he's
again.
Does he?
It's Tom Jones. That's the song. Like if we had Tom Jones on the podcast, it would be, hey Tom. One song and one song only.
Like name me another song that Hanson did besides Bop.
Yeah.
See,
it was like a second single, but I don't remember the name of it. Wait, so I think you said Danny Elfman did the soundtrack?
Yeah.
So in the scope of Tim Burton, Danny Elfman collabs, where do you rank this one?
You know, it's weird because like the opening sequence, I felt like I felt the soundtrack quite a bit. Whereas like, I don't know if it was really as prominent for the rest of it.
Yeah.
Afterwards, compared to like, if I look at like a Batman or Batman Returns, where like the soundtrack is a character in the movie, I didn't feel it as much in this.
There were some parts for me, like the Vegas scene where they were kind of getting together. Like there was like this patriotic swell and little pieces here or there. And then there was the whole like alien theme, you know?
La 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 la. No, wrong movie.
These are aliens. These are aliens.
Well, one of the things, and this does now get into more of the story stuff, is I'll jump back before we jump forward. Looking at the idea of alien invasion and the way they presented it, these guys come down and all hell breaks loose over a dove. In theory, that was the inciting.
Yeah, they hated birds, right?
the inciting offense that the humans made. But they were also maniacal in that they were just messing around, because as we see them talk to and or operate with other government entities, they just kept playing the same BS. Like, oh, we'll actually be your friends. Sorry about what we did before. It's interesting to see them kind of paint them with very well all the human qualities, right? As much as they were different, they just ended up being like us.
They seem to really love like the trickery of stuff, like the gag kind of situation. Like, let's smoke your nuclear bomb, and look, let's pretend to shake your hand, but no, really, they're just like preteen practical jokers.
They're just a planet of teenagers.
Yeah, so much so that, and from a tech perspective, where we go again, Matt, would you like a cross-species animal? Because they seem to be able to be very successful mixing two things that don't go together.
I don't know. That's now I'm trying to think like what would make an interesting cross. I don't know.
Like you just pull from Legends and hit like a griffin, something like regular,
like a bird bear or something like that. Like how like the body of a bear and a head of a hawk or something.
Mm-hmm.
Have that screeching sound. I don't know.
No, they're still going ack ack.
Oh god.
Even the creatures do it as well. I mean, we go through there's like multiple hero moments, like different people who fight the aliens and succeed.
Mm-hmm.
But I think we talked about like, why did they just let the aliens come into every room with guns?
Yeah, that's I don't. That's a pretty subpar Secret Service, if you ask me. I feel like they'd be like, no, you can't walk in with guns. But then again, I guess did the Secret Service and they had the military, like they had guns too.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean,
they were terrible at shooting them.
Yeah, I guess you can make the argument that like if everyone has guns, then they're, it's kind of hard to say, well, you can't have guns, but then our Secret Service people have guns.
Mm-hmm.
But that only really applies the first time. Every time after that, they'd be like, no, you don't get to bring the zappy zaps in here. That's not going to work. Fool me once.
You can't fool me again. When I think of this, and maybe we've been due for one for a while. I'm trying to think of what the last kind of alien movie in this vein was. We probably haven't asked this in a while, but given the CGI and where it stands, is it time to remake this movie? Remake Mars Attacks?
See,
give it a fresh coat of paint?
One of the things that I originally didn't like too much about this movie, which is kind of grown on me a little bit, is the comedy parody aspect of it. It's obviously a homage to the movies of the 50s and all this kind of stuff, and the way it is and the way it looks, and the 50s and the 60s and stuff. And I originally thought oh man, this would be so much better if it was a little bit more serious. But then that's other movies. So I think it's possible that it could be, but I don't think it should be a parody. But I don't know. If you look at it, if you try to make it more serious, then it's V or War of the Worlds or something like that. This stands apart because of its parody, but I feel like there's room for something else, but maybe not the same exact thing that it is.
I guess I feel like this, and we talked about Independence Day following a formula. Has there been anything recently that's like it?
Ooh, like an alien invasion movie like this?
Yeah, and it's tied in specifically like this.
I don't. I kind of feel like. I mean, I'm sure it's probably not the case, but I do think War of the Worlds kind of killed the genre in general. Because
you mean the Spielberg one?
Yeah, with Tom Cruise. I feel like that was the last time we really saw a major alien invasion movie like that. There's obviously been TV shows that have kind of featured it, but I don't know. I guess people kind of got tired of. I kind of feel like between the two movies, this one specifically, I think people are just kind of already over seeing a whole bunch of monument destruction porn, I guess.
Right.
I think I thought of one. I think I thought of one that we love, but it hurts at the same time. It's not the same though. Live, Die, Repeat. That would count, right?
Yeah, because I think you can start getting into movies like Arrival, for example, is also but there's no war. I mean, there was Battle Los Angeles and what's another
Cloverfield.
Cloverfield. They didn't really have spaceships in that one, but still alien. Well, I don't know, because if you watch the sequel movies, they imply that they're just from other dimensions. Yeah, that franchise kind of went in weird directions. I don't know, because in a way, it's kind of cheap doing it this way. There's no expectation. Maybe that's just why I actually really enjoy Arrival quite a bit, and I think it's because it wasn't an alien invasion movie in the sense everyone was just as scared, but that's not. It was honestly more about linguistics than it was about blowing up, the Lincoln Memorial. And so I feel like it was so different that it was refreshing. And I think it's because there were so many movies that were just aliens invading. I don't know, I feel like to me, alien invasion movies were very much a time of kind of an allegory for the Cold War for the most part.
Sure.
Because you look at when alien invasion movies really took off, and it was literally after World War II, and it was between World War II and the 90s. That's exactly what was going on during that time. So it's not, too much of a shocker. But then after that, it just kind of fell off. The last one that I could really feel happen that was probably successful was probably Signs.
Oh, okay.
But that one was I don't know, that one was more like Jaws, where you didn't really see a lot of stuff happen. It was, the aliens were hidden for the most part.
The alien walks by in the background.
Yeah, it was sparse at best compared to, what you would get in movies like these.
I kind of just want to watch Independence Day again now. It's giving me that. Well, one of the other things we talked about that these movies tend to do a lot is, specifically Sam Whitman's song "Indian Love Call." Apparently, it was the right frequency to break alien brains.
Right, but
why
which
do they
part?
always rely on that?
At first, they had the harmonizing, but then they played the whole song. It seemed they hated the whole thing.
So was it just hate for the song that made their brain explode? It wasn't like a Venom thing.
Well, at first I thought it was that, but then, and that's what started it. But then as it continued on, they were like, no, not this still. So even though the harmonizing was gone.
Okay, so quick question though. So we have a bunch of aliens who invade Earth, kill a lot of people, and are killed by music. Is the more serious version of this just A Quiet Place for you, Bobby?
Right. No, it's funny. I thought of that, but yeah, I mean,
Like,
there's
why is there always that weakness that they create for these alien species? Whether it's music or audio or bacteria or water, like they always give them this like weak.
They had the shield over the top of their heads, like that didn't dampen the sound. It just like,
I guess not.
I love that you just want them to put in earplugs, is what I just heard.
Good question. Do they have ears? Did they have ears?
Did they? Now, like, okay, pull up a model.
Or did they just absorb sound through their brain, through their like the top of their heads, and that's why it like kind of warbled when they.
It is a very interesting species to have like such a vulnerable part, completely fleshy and outward. But I guess that's what being underground in Mars in caverns will do.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if there's any credit due to War of the Worlds, is at least it does make sense. Because I mean, that it's just the history of even mankind of like, whenever one culture meets another culture, bacteria and viruses and stuff kill off the other culture.
Right.
So at least that one kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
This one, like, it just feels like they're, they wanted to pull the whole like Phantom Menace, like you destroy the main ship and all the robots fall. So they,
yes.
Like, so what is it? And Tim Burton was like yodeling. It's got to be yodeling. So, I like,
it's totally yodeling. Well, if you were to yodel your way down to your local Blockbuster, Bobby, are you renting and recommending Mars Attacks?
I think it's I mean, at first I was like, like I can't get behind the comedy and the parody. Like I get it. Like, but I mean, I did think that it was an entertaining movie to watch. Would I have like sought it out of like the whole list of new releases and all the fun stuff at Blockbuster? Would I have gone and gotten that? Maybe on the first day when there was like 40 copies of it on the shelf, then I can go get it and watch it. But like I did think for like it was an entertaining thing. It's not super long. It's in my happy runtime.
Always appreciating the runtime.
So I mean, I enjoyed it.
Well, we'll go futuristic with Matt, or we'll go present, not futuristic. Will you pay for this on streaming?
Pay for it on streaming?
Yeah.
I
recommend it that much.
Rent me for $1.99 or whatever.
I don't think that I would. I would say like if you see it on Netflix or something and it's part of your bundled cost, I think it's worth watching. But I don't know if this movie is as solid as to require me to spend $1.99 for something like this. Like I enjoyed it.
Okay, fine. I created a new metric we've never done before. Okay, get the money out of there. How do you feel about it?
If there's about like 25 less characters that they waste time on, maybe I would spend money on it.
I mean, I don't mind. At least they had the backbone to kill them.
Yeah, I do agree with that.
But I think that this movie,
sure. Except for Jim Brown,
if this movie had been directed by anyone other than Tim Burton, I think it would have been a complete like C-list movie that would go into the bottom of the bargain bin. Sure. I think that his mind works in a way that complements this kind of movie, but at the same time, I feel like it was just not enough.
There were some neat artsy shots, like you mentioned like when the president was like had his head on the reflective screen, like. And I thought there was some other neat stuff in it from a filmmaking art point of view.
I think that if you like Tim Burton stuff, this is worth watching. But outside of that, I don't know. I don't know if some 18-year-old asked me what I think about Mars Attacks if they want to go watch it. I'd be like, it's probably not going to be your thing. You probably won't even know how half the celebrities in this movie. Unfortunately.
That is so true. Oh, that hurts so much. Yeah, I think it's one of those where I do believe it's worth watching, but it's almost for this, it's hitting that nostalgia feel in a way. Like I'm giving it a pass because it's kind of corny and cheesy from that nostalgia standpoint. And like you mentioned, having a cast that is full of people that are familiar to us because we're old now. And the kids wouldn't know. They'd be like, I don't understand what I'm looking at. Why do the graphics suck? Who did this? Who did this?
We're closer to that senior citizen home than we are the arcade, unfortunately.
Oh, okay. All right. So now that I will go cry in a corner, yeah, I'd say watch it. I think it's a mix here, and understandably so. Really go watch Independence Day and enjoy that. As always, thank you for listening, and remember, you can forget Grandma because she's halfway to outer space already.